The little girl burst from the tree line, cheeks streaked with dirt and tears, clutching a stuffed rabbit by one ear. She ran straight toward the row of idling Harleys outside a Tennessee roadside bar, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. "My mom didn't come home last night," she cried. Every engine went silent. The men outside Rusty Jack's roadhouse had been finishing a late ride, stretching stiff backs and knocking dust off their boots. Early winter dusk had settled over rural Tennessee, turning the sky the color of cold iron, their breath fogged in the air. Nobody expected a child to appear from the woods like she'd been shot out of fear itself. She stumbled across the gravel, boots too big, jacket unzipped, hair tangled. Her small chest heaved with gasps that didn't fully make it to air. When she reached the group of leather-clad men, she stopped like her body, finally remembered it couldn't run forever. Ryder, the chapter's vice president, a broad man with a slow, heavy way of moving, was the first to crouch down. His beard was silver at the edges, his eyes tired but gentle. "You lost, sweetheart?" he asked quietly, careful not to reach out. The girl shook her head hard, like the question itself hurt. "My name's Harper," she whispered, voice cracking. "My mom didn't come home last night." The biker straightened almost imperceptibly, a shift in weight, a change in breathing. Fear in a child's voice did things to grown men they didn't always understand. Ryder kept his tone soft. "Where's your house, Harper?" "In the trailer park by the river," she said. "But I waited all night, and she didn't come. Nobody believed me." Her chin trembled. "You're the only ones with lights on." Behind Ryder, the other bikers exchanged a single look, quiet, grim, decisive. Something wasn't right. Ryder eased himself lower, elbows resting on his knees. "Did something happen yesterday? Did your mom say anything before work?" Harper wiped her nose with the back of her hand. "She said she'd pick up dinner on the way home. She always does on Fridays." Her voice dropped to a whimper. "She never even called." The wind picked up, carrying the smell of river water and diesel from the nearby highway. The bikers stood in a half-circle, forming an unspoken barrier without crowding her. Then Harper reached into her pocket and pulled something small on a fraying chain, a tarnished circular pendant. She opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a tiny photo of a smiling man wearing a leather cut, holding a baby girl. The patch on his back was unmistakable. Ryder stared at the picture a long second, his jaw locking. "That man," he said quietly. "You know who he is?" Harper nodded. "Grandpa Nathan. Mom said he died before I was old enough to know him." Several men behind Ryder exhaled sharply. They knew Nathan. He'd been one of theirs 20 years ago, a gentle rider with stubborn principles, and a laugh that always arrived first. Ryder swallowed hard. "Your mom, she his daughter?" The girl nodded again. Ryder rose slowly, shoulders straightening under the weight of realization. Around him, the men adjusted their vests, tugged gloves tight, checked keys clipped to belts. This wasn't some random missing person story. This was family. And family didn't get abandoned. Harper sat on a cold metal chair by the door while the men moved inside the bar, lowering their voices. Ryder kept near her, one hand braced on the counter as he dialed the sheriff's office for the second time. He listened, teeth grinding. "Yeah," he said finally. "I already told you. She didn't just wander off. A mother doesn't ditch her kid overnight in 30-degree weather." His voice stayed controlled, but barely. Another pause. "Well, maybe if someone actually drove down there instead of giving me the damn policy checklist." He cut himself off, eyes slamming shut in frustration. Harper hugged her stuffed rabbit to her chest, chin tucked down. She wasn't crying now, just staring at his boots like she was waiting for something bad to happen next. Ryder hung up with a slow exhale. "They aren't coming," he said, more to himself than the others. Tank, the tallest of the crew, crossed his arms. "Sheriff's office been useless all year. Budget cuts, new deputies who can't read a map." Crow, scarred and silent at the bar's edge, spoke without looking up. Kid says her mom works nights at the grocery distribution center. That place sits right off the old quarry road. Ryder stiffened. The quarry road was isolated. Dark. A place locals avoided. He crouched beside Harper again. "Sweetheart, did your mom's boyfriend come around yesterday?" Her lip quivered. Wes came after school. They argued. Mom told him to leave. He got real mad. Ryder stood. That was enough. Ryder stepped into the back hallway, flicking on the old fluorescent light. The hum filled the narrow space while he braced both hands on the sink and stared at himself in the cracked mirror. Nathan's photo, older, grinning alive, hung beside the paper towel dispenser. It had been there since before Ryder patched into. He remembered the day Nathan died. Remembered the graveside vow spoken under a gray sky. "If your girl ever needs us, she won't walk alone." The vow echoed now like a drumbeat. When Ryder returned to the main room, the men were already halfway to ready. Cuts on. Boots tightened. Phones grabbed. A map spread on a table with creases from years of use. "We're not storming anything," Ryder said immediately. "We'll go to find her mom. That's it. We don't escalate." The men nodded. They knew the rules. They also knew what they'd do if the situation already escalated. Without their help, Crow pointed at a mark on the map. Old quarry shack. Wes's brother used to squat there. Wouldn't be the first time a woman ended up hiding on that road. Tank at it, or being kept there. Ryder's jaw flexed. He turned to Harper. She sat wrapped in a thick flannel now, tiny legs swinging above the floor. "Harper," he said gently, "you're staying here with Crow. He won't let anything happen to you." She swallowed hard. "You'll find her." Ryder lowered to her eye level again. "I'll bring her back. That's a promise." And Ryder didn't break promises. The men rolled their bikes out into the fading light. The sun had dropped behind the ridge, leaving the world tinted blue and gold. The temperature fell fast. Boots scraped on the pavement, jackets zipped, helmets buckled. Ryder climbed onto his black Harley, the engine rumbling beneath him like a heartbeat he trusted. Crow remained inside with Harper, one hand always on the door, the other stirring hot chocolate on the old stove. Harper watched through a gap in the curtains as the rest of the bikes lined up in the lot. She whispered, "Please find her," into the rabbit's ear. Hoping anyone heard, Ryder signaled with 2 fingers. The formation tightened. Tank took rear. Diesel and cold air mixed in a dense fog around them. Then the engines rose, 20 throats of steel and fire beneath the twilight. Not loud, not reckless, just steady. Focused, the sound rolled across the highway in a single, unified note that felt like intention made audible. Ryder turned onto the main road, heading toward the river. The other bikes followed in perfect staggered formation. They rode past empty fields, shuttered homes, the rusted skeleton of a long-closed gas station. The world felt abandoned in places like this, except tonight. There was purpose cutting through the quiet. Nobody spoke through their comms. Nobody needed to. They were following a trail that wasn't on any map. Fear, instinct, memory, and a promise older than the girl waiting back at the bar. And somewhere out there, Harper's mom was running out of time. The ride to the quarry cut through the oldest part of the county, winding 2-lane blacktop bordered by skeletal trees and fields left to rot after too many bad seasons. The deeper they went, the fewer porch lights glowed, until the world was swallowed by shadow and the steady sweep of headlights. Ryder felt the tension radiating through the calm silence. Every man sensed this wasn't just a missing person call. There was anger in the air, anger that didn't belong to the club, but pressed against them all the same. It made sense. Wes had a history, a temper, a record long enough to raise eyebrows and short enough that the sheriff never bothered to act on it. Tank's voice finally crackled through the headset. Truck tracks on the shoulder fresh. Mud still wet. Ryder slowed, eyes scanning the dark tree line where the road widened into an unofficial pull-off. used mostly by fishermen and people who didn't want to be seen. Same tire pattern he drove last spring. Tank added. Right size. Same tread. Ryder signaled a halt. The bikes eased to the gravel, engines idling low. Flashlights clicked on, slicing through the dark. The smell of damp earth rose sharply, thick as the night itself. Crow wasn't here, but his voice echoed in Ryder's head anyway. Quarry Road is places you don't walk into unprepared. Ryder knelt by the fresh track, pressing 2 fingers into the mud. Still warm, still sinking. He looked up. He didn't leave long ago, Ryder said, and he wasn't alone. The men spread out in a staggered sweep, boots sinking into soft ground. The quarry road bent sharply into a wooded gully, where the trees grew shoulder to shoulder like they were hiding something. Ryder moved ahead, flashlight steady, breath visible in the cold. Then Tank called out, "Got something." Ryder crossed quickly. Tank stood near a patch of disturbed leaves, pointing with the edge of his boot. A discarded phone lay face down in the dirt. Ryder flipped it over. The screen was cracked, but the lock screen photo still glowed faintly. A picture of Harper and her mom, cheeks pressed together, smiling in front of the county fair Ferris wheel. Ryder felt his chest tighten. "It's hers," he said quietly. "Jinx, thin, fast-moving, always thinking. Check the edges of the trail. There's drag marks," he muttered. "Not long. Whoever it was moved her quick." Ryder swallowed back the instinct to imagine the worst. He couldn't afford fear right now. Fear clouded judgment. Nathan had taught him that. The path widened near an old rusted sign half buried in kudzu, pointing toward the abandoned quarry office. A single light flickered beyond the trees, weak, yellow, artificial. "Generator," Tank suggested. Ryder nodded once. Wes's brother used to run one out here to cook meth, if they're using the old shack. No one finished the sentence. They didn't need to. Ryder shut off his flashlight. "Engines off," he ordered. "We walk from here." The night swallowed their footsteps as they moved toward that single, trembling light. The shack appeared like a bruise in the dark, warped siding, broken windows patched with cardboard, a sagging porch held up by rusted screws and stubbornness. The weak yellow light leaked from inside, like it was trying to escape. Ryder raised a closed fist. The men froze instantly. Muffled voices drifted out, one male, slurred with anger, and a softer one strained by fear. "Wes." Ryder motioned 3 men around the side. Tank positioned at the back window. Jinx slid low along the porch. Ryder approached the front. Each step measured, deliberate. Inside, something crashed. A woman cried out. Ryder didn't wait. He kicked the door hard enough to splinter the frame. It snapped against the wall with a bang that shook dust from the rafters. Wes spun around, wild-eyed, knife glinting in his hand. The woman, Harper's mother, was tied to a chair, duct tape cutting into her wrists. Her face was bruised, lips split, but her eyes were sharp with a sudden burst of hope when she saw the men come through the door. Ryder moved first. Wes lunged. Tank crashed through the back, just in time to cut off the escape. Jinx pinned Wes's arm before the knife could make its mark. The man thrashed, spitting curses, but resistance didn't last long against 3 riders built like steel girders. Ryder grabbed the knife and flung it aside, chest heaving. For a moment, the room pulsed with the sound of rough breathing and the rattling generator. Then Ryder turned to her. "We're here," he said softly. "Your girl's safe." Her tears came fast. Freeing her took longer than expected. The duct tape had been wrapped too tight, cutting circulation, bruising the skin beneath. Ryder worked carefully, slicing through the restraints with a steady hand, while Tank kept Wes pinned face down in the dirt just outside the shack. When the last strip fell away, Harper's mom collapsed forward, but Ryder caught her before she hit the floor. "I thought no one would come," she choked out. "He said nobody cared, that no one would look for me." Ryder steadied her with both hands. "Your daughter cared. That's all it took." She cried harder at that, shoulders shaking. Jinx draped his jacket over her, guiding her toward the door. Outside, the cold air hit her lungs, and she gasped. Tank tightened his hold on Wes, whose rage had curdled into a pathetic, sputtering whine. "We're taking him in?" Tank asked. Ryder hesitated. The sheriff's office hadn't cared before, might not care now. But Harper deserved more than vengeance. She deserved safety. "Yeah," Ryder muttered. "We take him in, and we stay with her until she's settled." Harper's mom looked up sharply, worry lighting her bruised features. "Harper, is she all right?" Ryder met her gaze, waiting at the bar with Crow. Safe as can be. Something inside her unclenched. Her knees gave out again, and Ryder helped her sit on the porch steps. Behind them, the shack flickered under the generator's dying light. Ahead, the long walk back to the bikes waited, cold, dark, necessary. The ride back felt different, not rushed, not panicked, but heavy with relief that hadn't fully taken shape yet. Harper's mom rode on Ryder's bike, arms wrapped tight around his waist, head resting weakly against his back. Every few miles, he felt her breath hitch, like she was relearning how to exist without fear. When the bar's neon sign finally came into view, glowing soft blue against the night, Ryder's chest loosened. Crow stood outside with Harper tucked beneath his arm, wrapped in a blanket twice her size. The moment Harper spotted her mother, she broke free. "Mom!" she screamed, sprinting across the lot. Her mother slid off the bike unsteadily, but she was already dropping to her knees, catching her daughter in shaking arms. Harper pressed her face into her mother's chest, sobbing in bursts that sounded like they'd been trapped for years, not hours. The bikers stepped back, giving them space. Ryder watched quietly, helmet in hand, breath visible in the cold air. Some promises, he realized, lived long past the people who made them. Tank hauled Wes from his bike, still bound, still glaring. "Let's get rid of this trash," he muttered. Ryder nodded, but didn't look away from Harper and her mom. The reunion was messy, loud, uneven, exactly what real ones were. Harper finally looked up, tears streaking her cheeks. "You found her," she whispered. Ryder nodded once. "We keep our word." A simple truth. And tonight, it meant everything. The bar lot was quieter now, engines cooling, gravel settling under boots. The adrenaline that had carried everyone out to the quarry slowly ebbed, leaving behind a raw, unvarnished stillness. Harper clung to her mother's neck like she was afraid the world might steal her away again. Crow stepped forward, handing Harper's mom a warm cup of tea he'd brewed from the emergency stash behind the counter. She took it with trembling fingers, murmuring a soft "thank you." Her voice cracked and thin. Ryder motioned Tank and Jinx toward the far end of the lot where Wes sat slumped against a fence post, wrists bound with zip ties. He glared up at them, face mottled with rage and something weaker, fear maybe, or the realization that his hold over Harper's mom had shattered clean in a single night. Tank crouched beside him. "You hurt a woman. You scared a kid. You're lucky you're breathing." Wes spat at the ground. "She was mine to deal with." Ryder stepped in front of him, boots inches from Wes's knees. "She was never yours. And the only reason you're not bleeding right now is because that little girl deserves a justice system that works at least once in her life." Wes sneered, but his eyes flickered uncertainly. Crow called from the doorway. "Sheriff's 10 minutes out. I told them we'd hold him." Ryder exhaled. Good. Let them do their job for once. But he doubted they'd move as fast if not for the 20 Harleys standing guard. Tonight, justice had an audience. Red and blue lights appeared over the ridge, cutting through the night like an unwelcome reminder of the outside world. Gravel crunched as the sheriff's SUV rolled into the lot, followed by a second cruiser. Deputies stepped out cautiously when they saw the line of bikers standing shoulder to shoulder. Sheriff Leland Daniels emerged last, gray-bearded, tired-eyed, a man who'd spent years doing the bare minimum because the county budget made anything more feel hopeless. But even he paused when he spotted Harper clinging to her mother. Leland approached Ryder slowly. "Heard you boys stirred up some trouble." Ryder didn't flinch. "We found a woman tied to a chair in a shack off Quarry Road. You want to call that trouble, go ahead." A muscle in the sheriff's cheek twitched. "Where's the suspect?" Tank nudged Wes forward. Wes stumbled, shooting glare after glare until he spotted the deputies, waiting to cuff him. His face drained of color. Leland raised his eyebrows. "Well, now, that's a familiar face." He signaled the deputies. "Get him in the truck." As they dragged Wes away, Harper's mom wrapped an arm protectively around her daughter, shielding her from the sight. Harper peeked anyway, face pale but eyes steady. Once the cuffs clicked, Leland turned back to Ryder. "I'm filing this clean. You boys did what my office should have done earlier. I'll own that." Ryder nodded once. No victory. No pride. Just truth. Leland glanced at the crowd of riders. "You all can stand down. We'll handle it from here." But the men didn't move. Not until Ryder did. Once the cruisers rolled away, the tension in the lot eased. Crow herded everyone inside, where the bar's aged heaters hummed like gentle old dogs. The air smelled faintly of coffee grounds, motor oil, and the cinnamon candles the bartender kept lit during winter months. Harper's mom sank into a booth. Harper pressed against her side. Someone placed a bowl of hot soup in front of them. Nobody admitted who. Harper's mom touched the rim with shaky fingers, almost overwhelmed by the simplicity of kindness. Ryder slid into the seat across from them. He didn't speak right away, giving her space to breathe. The bruises on her face were darkening, swelling. Exhaustion pulled at her eyes like gravity. "You're safe now," he said finally. "But we need to talk about what comes next. The sheriff will want a statement. Maybe more." She nodded. "I'll tell him everything. I'm done being scared." Harper snuggled closer to her mom, the stuffed rabbit wedged between them like a small guardian. "Are we going home?" she whispered. Her mom hesitated. The question lingered in the air like dust in sunlight. Ryder answered for her, but gently. "Not tonight. You both need rest. And that place, it's not where you should be right now." Harper's mom looked down, ashamed. I should have protected her better. Ryder leaned forward, voice firm but warm. "You did. You left Wes. You stood up to him. That's why he tried to break you. But he didn't." A tear slid down her cheek. Not from fear this time. From release. Tank returned from the back hallway carrying 2 folded blankets and an old sweatshirt someone's ex-wife had left years ago. He set them gently beside Harper's mom, clearing his throat like he wasn't used to being soft in public. "You and the kid can stay in the spare room upstairs," he said. "It ain't fancy, but it's warm and has a lock that actually works." Harper blinked up at him. "Thank you, giant man." Tank's ears turned red. "Yeah, sure." Crow chuckled from behind the counter. Ryder rested his arms on the table. "You don't owe us anything. This isn't charity. Nathan was one of ours. That makes you one of ours." Her eyes widened at the mention of her father. "I didn't think anyone remembered him." "Hard to forget a man like Nathan," Ryder murmured. "He had a way of leaving a mark." Harper's mom brushed her fingers over the pendant around her daughter's neck. "He'd be grateful for what you did." Ryder shook his head. "We did what he would have done." The room fell quiet for a moment, a silence filled not with grief, but with a kind of steady, grounding respect. Then Crow clapped his hands once. "All right, let's get you two settled. Harper, you like marshmallows? 'Cause I got a bag from last Christmas that's only slightly stale." Harper's eyes brightened for the first time all night. "I love marshmallows." Crow winked. "Then we'll pretend they're fresh." It wasn't much, but it was safety. And that was enough for now. The upstairs room hadn't seen guests in over a year. Dust clung to the corners. The quilt was mismatched, and the lamp flickered whenever someone downstairs used the microwave, but it was warm, and the lock clicked solidly into place. When Ryder tested it, Harper's mom stepped in slowly, Harper's hand clasped in hers. The girl looked around with wide eyes, bouncing once on the bed to test its softness. "It's perfect," her mom whispered, though her voice trembled with exhaustion. Ryder set a glass of water on the nightstand. "You'll both be safe here. Crow's downstairs all night. Tank sleeps light. If you need anything, food, medicine company, you knock on that door or shout. No shame in asking." Harper crawled under the quilt, pulling her stuffed rabbit close. "Can Mom stay with me?" Her mom brushed back her hair. "Of course I can." Ryder stepped back toward the doorway, but Harper suddenly sat up. "Wait." He paused. She held out her small hand, palm open. "Thank you," she said, voice tiny but full of sincerity that hit harder than anything else that night. Ryder's chest tightened. He touched her hand lightly, not shaking it, just acknowledging it. "Rest now, Harper. We'll keep watch." The girl nodded, eyelids already drooping. Ryder closed the door softly behind him, lingering for a moment in the dim hallway. He'd kept his promise, but promises had ripples, and he could feel the next ones forming already. Downstairs, the bar had mostly emptied. A few members lingered, speaking quietly, polishing gear, letting the night's weight settle in their shoulders. Ryder slipped onto a stool, rubbing a hand over his face. Crow set a mug of coffee in front of him. "You're thinking too loud," he said. Ryder didn't argue. Wes had plans. You don't tie someone up unless you mean to do something worse. Crow leaned on the bar. "We got there in time. That's what matters." "Yeah." Ryder stared into the coffee. "But what happens tomorrow? Next week? They can't go back to that trailer. They need a place to land." Crow nodded slowly. "Figured you'd say that. You got another thought?" "Maybe." Crow folded his arms. "Nathan's old place, the one by the ridge? It's empty, but still standing. Needs work, but it could be theirs." Ryder blinked. "Hadn't thought of that." "Figured you might not. But that girl, she shouldn't grow up thinking the world's full of West types. She should grow up knowing it's full of people who give a damn." Ryder huffed something that wasn't quite a laugh. "You're getting sentimental. Don't spread rumors." Ryder took a long sip, the bitterness grounding him. "I'll ask her tomorrow. Let her breathe tonight." "Good." Crow patted his shoulder. "And Ryder?" "Yeah, you did right today." Ryder looked toward the stairs where Harper and her mom slept. "I hope so," he murmured. But he'd keep proving it, one day at a time. Dawn came gently, pink light sliding across frost-coated windows. The bar was quiet except for the soft clink of dishes as Crow prepared a simple breakfast. Ryder hadn't slept. He'd stayed in a chair near the bottom of the stairs, listening for anything out of place. Around 7, the upstairs door creaked open. Harper padded down the steps, still wrapped in the oversized quilt, her stuffed rabbit tucked under her arm. Her eyes found Ryder immediately. "You stayed here all night?" she asked. He straightened. Somebody had to keep an eye on things. She moved closer, peering up at him. "Thanks." Ryder ruffled her hair gently. "Hungry?" She nodded. Crow slid a plate of scrambled eggs toward her. "Best eggs in county. Don't ask why, they just are." Harper grinned sleepily and took a seat. A moment later, her mom appeared at the bottom of the stairs. Her bruises looked worse in the daylight, but her posture was stronger, more rooted. "Morning," she said softly. Ryder stood. "How are you feeling?" She hesitated. "Sore, but alive. That counts." She glanced at Harper, who was humming between bites of eggs. "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to." But she shook her head. "I want to. You saved us." Ryder met her gaze steadily. "You saved yourselves. We just showed up." Outside, frost melted in slow drips from the gutters. Inside, Warmth began to settle where fear used to live. After breakfast, Ryder took Harper's mom aside near the jukebox. Sunlight filtered through dusty blinds, casting lines across the floor. "There's something we should talk about," he began. She tensed slightly, not from fear, but from habit. "All right. You can't go back to the trailer right now. Not until the sheriff finishes the investigation, and you're sure Wes doesn't have buddies willing to stir trouble." Her eyes flicked instinctively toward Harper. "I know," Ryder continued. "There's another option. Nathan's old house by the ridge. It's empty, but it's structurally sound. Needs cleaning, maybe some repairs. But it's yours, technically. Always has been." She froze. Emotion flooded her face, grief, disbelief, longing. "I haven't been there since I was a kid. You don't have to decide today, but it's something. A start." Harper ran up, grabbing her mother's hand. "What house?" Her mom crouched down, smoothing a curl behind her daughter's ear. "A house your grandpa left us." Harper's eyes widened. "We get a house." Ryder smiled faintly. "If your mom wants it." The woman swallowed, voice thick. I think I do." Crow appeared with keys, jingling them lightly. "We checked on it last month. No leaks. No squatters. Just a lot of dust and a stubborn raccoon we already escorted out." Harper giggled. Her mom placed a hand over her heart, breath catching. "Let's see it." Ryder nodded. "We'll ride slow. Stay behind me." A new beginning waited just up the ridge. The house sat at the edge of the woods, sunlight falling across its weathered front like an old photograph half faded by time. The porch sagged slightly, paint peeling in strips, but the structure stood firm, stubborn and familiar. Harper hopped off Ryder's bike, running up the path with her rabbit bouncing against her side. "It looks like a storybook house," she shouted. Her mom stepped out more slowly. When she reached the porch, her hand gently traced the railing. "It still smells like him," she whispered. "Sawdust and coffee." Ryder watched quietly from the yard. He remembered coming here as a prospect, helping Nathan rebuild this very porch after a storm. Nathan had whistled the whole time, even when the hammer slipped and cracked his thumb. Crow opened the door with a gentle push. "We aired it out a bit last time, but it needs love." Inside, the house was simple: 2 bedrooms, a small living room, a kitchen with outdated linoleum. But sunlight streamed through the windows like it belonged there. Dust motes drifted lazily in the warmth. Harper twirled in the living room. "Can we stay? Mom, can we please stay?" Her mom pressed a hand to her mouth, tears forming again, but this time softer, warmer. "Yeah," she whispered. "Yeah, we can." Ryder exhaled slowly. Something knotted in his chest. Harper's mom turned to him. "You gave us more than safety," she said. "You gave us a future." Ryder shook his head. "You took it. We just unlocked the door." The sun climbed higher, melting frost from the roof as the group stood on the porch. Harper explored the yard, chasing imaginary creatures, while her stuffed rabbit flopped with each leap. Ryder leaned against the railing, arms crossed. Harper's mom joined him, hands shoved in the pockets of her borrowed sweatshirt. "I don't know how to repay you," she said softly. "You don't need to." She smiled faintly. "That seems to be a theme with you." Ryder smirked. "Maybe." She looked back at the house. "I want to make this place ours again. For Harper. For me. I want her to grow up with something solid." "You will." A comfortable quiet settled between them. Crow hollered from the yard. "Ryder, Tank says the raccoon's back." A crash followed. Harper laughed. Ryder sighed. Should have known he'd return. Harper's mom smiled, really smiled, for the first time since the night before. "Thank you. For everything." Ryder nodded once, looking out toward the ridge where the trees caught the light. "This isn't the end, you know. Whatever you need. Rides to court, help fixing the place, a safe room on bad nights. This club will show up." She swallowed hard. Why? Why go this far for us? Ryder glanced at Harper, who was trying, unsuccessfully, to sneak up on the raccoon Tank was shooing with a broom. Because Nathan once told me family isn't blood. It's who stands for you when everything else falls apart. She brushed a tear away, looking at him with something like hope, and for the first time in a long while, the world felt a little less broken.